Hey guys, happy Thursday. We are continuing our unit 3 with multiplication. And today we are going to continue practicing the 2-digit by 2-digit multiplication with area models. So in your journals on a new clean page, I want you to write in what is in purple and underline 2-digit by 2-digit multiplication with area models continued. Pause the video here if you need to. In this lesson, students will learn how to multiply 2-digit by 2-digit using an area model. In your notes, I want you to copy down this anchor chart. There is the example of 32 times 24. Remember to draw your rectangle out, divide it into fourths, and you're going to separate the first value. You can go 20 and 4 or 4 and 20. Remember, it doesn't matter where they go or what order you put them in, but I would put it 20 and 4 and then 30 and 2. So in the first box, you're connecting 30 and 4 for 30 times 4 for 120. In the box below, it would be 30 and 20. And when you multiply those together, you get 600. Then you take your 2 and your 4, you multiply them together, you get 8. Then you have 20 and 2, you multiply those together, you get 40. The next step is you add the partial products, which is 120, 60, 8, and 4 for a total of 768. Then your answer for 32 times 24 is the same as the partial products being added together for 768. Go ahead and take a moment to get the example in your notes. How do we multiply using area models? Again, this is another step-by-step using it. Area models are used to solve multiplication equations with multi-digit numbers and involve using the expanded form of the numbers. So here we have our model, 25 times 31. It's separated out as into 20 and 5 in the expanded form. And your 31 is expanded out into 30 and 1. Next step is you multiply all of the small equations to get answers inside the box. So we'll start with 20 times 30. You get 600. Then you multiply 5 times 30, lining up those two, and you get 150. Then you multiply 20 and 1. You get 20. Then you would multiply your 5 and your 1, and you get 5. When you add them all up, your answer is here, which is that 775. You add up all the partial products to get your answer. So here we go. We're going to practice a few. So here's an I do. I just want you to watch and pay attention. And the color-coded grids help you with the addition. But here we go. We're going to separate our first value, 1 and 3, into 10 and 3. And then our second value into 30 and 6. Then you multiply. 10 times 30 is 300. Then you multiply 30 and 3, and that is 90. Then you multiply 10 and 6, you get 60. And then you multiply 6 times 3, and you get 18. Remember, if you want to write in the equations inside of those, you can. And because it's color-coded, you can just line them up and add them in. 300 plus 90 plus 60 plus 18. I can't do horizontal, so I'm going to write it on over here. 300 plus 90 plus 60 plus 18. Make sure your digits are added up, lined up, and you can add. Then you have 16 and 1 and a 4. And the equation answer is 468. Okay, now we're going to do one, and I want you to try it. Here I want you to try to separate these numbers in expanded notation, and then I want you to see if you can multiply each of the equations that goes with the boxes to get your partial products. So pause the video here, and let's see if you can do it. Okay, so you should have had your 55 separates into 50 and 5, and then your 12 divides into 10 and 12. Your first equation is the pink box, which is your 50 and your 10 for 500. The second box is 5 and 10, which 5 times 10 or 10 times 5 is 50. Then you have 50 times 2, which is 100. And then 5 times 2, which is 10. If you take all of those partial products and you add them up, try to pause the video here and see if you can add them up and put your total in your notes. You should have 500. You should have 100. You should have a 5 and a 10. Then when you add them up, you should end up with 660. Again, those were 500, 150, 110. Let's try one more, couple more. Okay, pause the video here and see if you can go through all the steps of area models for dividing out 26 and 71 into their expanded notation and then finding the partial products and then adding them up. So pause the video here. You should have a 20, a 6, a 70, and a 1. Then in your box, you should have had 20 times 70. You should have 70 times 6. You should have 20 times 1. And you should have 1 times 6. If you get all of these equations written and they were correct, now check your math to see if you got the multiplication correct. 2 times 7, 14. I add 2 zeros. 7 times 6 is 42. I add 1 0. 20 times 1 is 20. 6 times 1 is 6. So you should have had a 1,400. You should have had 420. You should have had 20. You should have had a 6. When you added them up, make sure that your digits are all lined up. Make sure you can tell what you wrote. Make sure you have your symbol, and then you add it up. For 1,846. Now, if you got any of those steps wrong, make sure that you go back and you fix them. Okay, this is the last one we're going to practice, and this one is a little bit more tricky, and I picked this as 1 because it has that 0 in it, but you're still going to divide it in the same way. So we're going to kind of walk through this one together, but I still want you to do your work. Now, your 40 is divided up into 40 and 0. So make sure you put that 0 there for your place value holder. Your 19 is made up of 10 and 9. So inside your boxes or inside of the square that you have created, the first one is going to be your 40 times 10. The reason why you put your 0 is you're still multiplying 10 by 0, which is 0. And then 40 times 9. And then you have 9 times 0, which is still 0. So just make sure that you did those. You have 2 parts that are done. It's super easy, but don't forget that step. Then once you multiply 4 times 1, you get 4. You add 2 zeros, which is 400. Then 4 times 9 is 36. You add a 0, 360. Now all I'm having to add is 400 and 360. And when you add that up, you get 760. Just make sure you don't forget that step with the 0. So if you have some sort of 0 that's in the value of the ones place, make sure not to forget it because it is still something that you can multiply. You just get an answer of 0. Okay, so Exit ticket is going to be for virtual students, Google Slides 1 through 6 that are on there. You will be completing slides 2 through 7, but it says number 1 through 6 on those slides. And in person, I have printed them off, and they will still be your slides 1 through 6. So make sure that you take your time on these, make sure that you complete them correctly and do the best that you can on them. And once you get them done, I have extra practice for you to do. But these are big, they are difficult. There are a lot of ways that you can make a mistake. So make sure that you are practicing your multiplication facts as much as possible outside of class. And I will see you here in just a bit.